Over the past 2 years, AoV has implemented various adjustments that have altered how the early game is best played. In this video, we are watching a recent match between some top players in the Taiwan server to study how they now approach the early game in 2022. The blue team has a Wonderwoman Mid plus an Ormarr Support. Both are very strong in the early game, and note how they immediately claimed the mid bush on the side that's closer to the Abyssal Dragon lane at the start of the game. In comparison, the red team has a relatively weaker early game mid support pairing. So watch how Krixi safely stays under tower to clear that first mid wave, while the Roxie goes to help her jungler with the initial jungle clear. Since Roxie has the support item, she does not take away from her teammates' gold and XP by helping with the clear. But Roxie does need to be mindful to allow her jungler to take the last hit so that their jungler can start building the stacks on the jungle item. Now take a look at the mini map. The blue team's Tulen Jungle also started on his blue buff so that he can end his clear on his ADC side of the lane. The Lubu DS laner had helped Tulen to help hit the initial blue buff, but unlike Roxie, Lubu doesn't have a support item, so he's going to move out of range before Tulen finishes his clear to avoid taking golden XP away from his jungler in that initial clear. The Ormarr Support used their early game strength to roam down and help his ADC to take that little vision bird. The Varus jungler on the red team is going to share that second mid minion wave with his Krixi. And then Krixi and Roxie are going to proceed to help the Varus with the red side of his first jungle clear here. And they're able to do this because Varus took that, shared that mid wave. Otherwise, be mindful when helping your jungler with his first clear. Otherwise, the jungler may not accrue enough experience to achieve level 4 after his first clear. Now, the red team is well positioned to gank the top lane, and I think they're going to catch Lubu in a bad spot in a 4v1. Now, this is a bit of, I think, a miscommunication in the blue team because Ormarr did, towards the beginning of the game, get his teammates' vision that the red team Varus jungle had started on his blue buff first, that he would end his roam on the top side of the map. During the first 5 minutes of a game, all the outer towers have extra defense, so even though the red team got first blood here, they're not going to be able to do much to take down any towers at this stage. At 2 minutes into the game, both the first Dark Slayer and first Abyssal Dragon spawns. Now, the first Abyssal Dragon's buff is relatively better than the first Dark Slayer buff, and that's why you see the 5 members of both teams moving towards the Abyssal Dragon. In other matches, sometimes when one team has a much weaker earlier game composition than another team, they may opt to go directly to the Dark Slayer and just forfeit the Abyssal Dragon to avoid a losing team fight. With 3 members of the red team down in the last team fight, the blue team's going to be able to easily invade the blue buff here. One of the fun parts about the current meta is that there really isn't one true formulaic way to roam during the early game, and a lot of it is about adjusting and adopting based off of your team's composition and the enemy team's composition. So for instance, in this match, we saw the blue team, because they have a really strong early game mid and support pairing with the Wonderwoman and Ormarr, have been largely able to outroam the red team and control the vision of the river through the early game. In the current meta and map in 2022, it's harder for teams to snowball off an early game lead relative to the prior version of the game. So even if your team falls behind early game, don't straw. There's still a lot of opportunities to make a comeback. In particular, it's hard for teams to push towers before the 5-minute mark anyways, given the extra defense that's now applied to all of the towers. But this team fight right before 5 minutes is super important because the winning team will be in a good position to start pushing towers. Watch where the Ormarr stands while his teammates push the bot tower so that he can zone anyone from the red team that approaches. Well, I hope you guys found this video to be helpful, and perhaps we can watch some more examples together in the future just to study how the top teams adjust their roams early game depending on the compositions and heroes that they play. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so already, be sure to also check out my prior video where we focus on the late game tactics by watching one of the AIC championship matches last month, where we study how the top teams position during the late game.